Ben?
Thank you. Good evening, and welcome to the Town of Limington Select Board meeting for May 1st, 2025. We will start the meeting at 7:04 PM with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, now that we have our assistant back, we have approval of meeting minutes we're going to approve 2 weeks' worth. No, we will not. We approved last week.
Yes.
We approved the
We approved
previous-
the minutes
17th,
from the
yes.
previous
So now we're
week.
going to approve the minutes for April 24th, 2025.
I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for April 24th, 2025.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the meeting minutes. All in favor? Thank you. Now, we also have approval for warrants for 2 weeks ago. We did not have those last week. So we have approval for warrants for week 17, payroll warrant number 33 for $30,854.56, and the appropriations warrant number 34 for $554,600.09. That is because Greenwood Emergency Vehicle was $533 and $533,269.
533,000.
$533,269.
I wish it was.
That was
cheap.
most of that appropriation warrant. Let's do that section first. How's that?
I make a motion to accept warrants 33 and 34.
I will second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Thank you. Now, approval of warrants for week 18, payroll warrant number 35 for $29,675.14, and appropriations warrant number 36, $410,127.74 for a total, warrants 35 and 36, $442,490.73.
I make a motion to accept warrants 35 and appropriation warrant 36.
I will second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Thank you.
The brunt of that was the MS-86 bill for $368,000.
Yes. We're not even going to go near. $900,000 in 2 weeks.
Yeah,
Okay.
purchase orders.
Purchase order requests?
Purchase orders. All right. A purchase order request, fire and EMS, a request to pay Boundtree EMS supplies, $19.32. A request to pay Amazon bathroom supplies, $19.99.
Make a motion to accept fire and EMS payroll request.
I will second that. All in
All in
favor?
favor?
Thank you.
Purchase order request, sorry.
Parks and Rec, purchase order request, a request to pay Amazon T-ball supplies, $415.22.
I make a motion to accept Parks and Rec purchase order request.
I will second that. All in favor? Thank you very much. Okay.
Select Board weeklies.
Yes. Weekly activities. In-house today, we took a field trip.
Oh, we're going to start with the field trip?
Yeah.
So from last week's open forum here at the Select Board, Coventry neighborhood was brought up for some trees that were cut down or
A particular tree.
a particular tree. So the Select Board decided today to take a field trip over to Coventry Road so we could take a look at the property in question and the tree in question. So we will be speaking with the landowner on that next Thursday.
Next
Yes,
Tuesday.
I believe him and his wife are coming in
Yep.
next Thursday, so we will get that corrected.
Very good. We have,
Yes, the all-state proposal. We've got to get out with Charlie from Allstate. I think we're gonna do a ride-along with Charlie to go over the proposed paving roads this year. Currently on the docket would be Dole's Ridge Road from Cape Road to Town Line, Whispering Pines Drive from Route 11 to Route 11, which is the wraparound, Evergreen Circle from Whispering Pines Drive, July Street from Hanscom School Road, South Road from Route 25, 700 feet in, and Stonecrest Drive from 117. We've got to meet with Charlie and pick a day for us to go out and go around. He's going to explain to us, you know, reasons for this, why the recommendations, and exactly the price, as we are budgeted for a little less this year, I believe, so. Yeah,
Very good.
and I'll reach out to him. I've called him, and I haven't got a hold of him yet, so.
All right, great, thank you.
Thank you.
Also, we are changing law firms. That is due to several people in our current law firm that is retiring, and so they are disbanding the law firm. So
Well, they're doing
They're-
away with the municipality,
the municipal,
municipal.
yes,
coverage.
portion of what we need them for. So we've been in contact with another law firm, so we hope to be on board with them next week.
Yeah, yes.
See, David's got some things over there.
I do have some things. Are we going to continue on?
Yeah, please.
The ACO, Limington ACO, has asked us to bring up a convenient drive-through rabies clinic, which is going to be held Saturday, May 3rd from 9 a.m. till noon. It's going to be at I believe at the Freiburg Fairgrounds across from Main Gate, Freiburg, Maine. Rabies vaccinations for cats and dogs are $15, cash only. They're asking that you don't bring any sick or pregnant pets. Puppies, kittens must be 12 weeks of age to receive rabies vaccines. They're asking that you bring valid rabies certifications and receive a 3-year certification. This is for rabies only. Rabies only. No distemper vaccinations due to Maine state law.
Awesome. Yep, so get those dogs and cats
Yes.
to the rabies clinic.
And I think this is for MSAD 6, right?
Senior citizens?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's attention, senior citizens of MSAD 6 are invited to a free turkey dinner, which is going to be held Wednesday, May 7th. Dinner begins at 4:30 p.m. It's going to be at the Bonnie Eagle High School cafeteria. Dinner will be served by students and administrators, and they would like you to RSVP to Sarah, 207-929-2312, or SRIDEOUT@bonnieeagle.org.
Oh, great, thank you.
And to follow up with that, also this Saturday, I believe at 4:30, we have a town dinner.
Yes.
It's going to be chowders, chilies, and stews, free to the public at the Old Town Hall. I believe it starts at 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock on this Saturday.
This
2
Saturday.
days from now.
Yes,
Mark your calendars and get out to that community dinner.
yeah.
That's going to be great.
I'm just trying to
Weeklies.
think.
Yep, we can do our weekly rundown for the departments.
Yeah, I'll start it off. Code enforcement, week from the 4/18 to 5/1. 1 growth permit, 5 building permits, 6 electrical permits, 5 plumbing permits, 1 business permit, for a total of 18 permits in the 2-week span, with fees of $4,435.17. Year-to-date's 96 permits, and year-to-date totals is $35,133. Craig has been on 22 inspections in the past 2 weeks. The code office has received the new 2021 code book, so he'll be brushing himself up on that. Public Works, spoke with Junior today. He has, the crew installed the cement pad at the old town hall for the generator. I did drive by today and saw that the company was on site and installed the generator and the transfer switch and the wiring, everything needed. They're just waiting on the propane company to come hook it up.
Oh, nice.
So that will be up and running shortly. They are currently grading. Grading has been done at Beaver Berry, Sand Pond, and Millturn area. Tucker Road, Tucker Road's been graded, and they've hauled in, I think, 3 loads of reclaim to try to crown that back up. It's been pretty stove up. South Road, and they were over today, and they will continue, I believe, tomorrow at Moy Dale, working down to the beach, because I think the cleanup day is coming up the 10th.
The 10th, yeah,
The
a
May
week from
10th
Saturday.
for Moy
Yep.
Dale. They were up today, mowed the town hall. They've been out, patched some spots on Beaver Berry Road in the airport area with some coal patch. Yeah, that's about it with Public Works.
Nice, thank you. Would you like to do Limington Fire and EMS?
So Limington Fire EMS weekly report, week ending April 26, 2025. Number of calls for service this week was 12. That's 6 fire calls and 6 EMS calls. Month to date, 53. Year to date, 218. The schedule was full for the week. Training in-house. Wednesday night crews began spring flushing of hydrants. Annual driver recertifications began, and annual hose testing of forestry equipment, forestry hoses. No away trainings or meetings. Maintenance conducted this week. DPW swapped the tires and rims on both ambulances from winter tires to summer tires. Engine 2 is out of service due to stalling on multiple occasions while at fire scenes. There is now a engine check-in light. There's now a check engine light due to 3 codes in the engine. They're working on finding a place local to have the truck serviced. Engine 6 is out of service due to a problem with the hand throttle on the pump panel. They've contacted Greenwood Emergency Vehicles to try to get the needed parts ordered. They're still waiting to hear back from them at this time. Also, Engine 2 Chief, the new tires are put on for the front today, and they're waiting to get the front tires or the front end of Engine 2 aligned. Hours worked this week, total 560.25 hours. Special notes, month to date, they are 32 calls behind last April. Year to date, they're 12 calls behind last year. There have been 2 arson fires this last week. One was set in a camper and spread into the yard and against a mobile home. The home suffered, I'm assuming it's heat damage, but the fire was stopped before the home actually caught fire. The other fire was intentionally set in a small cabin as part of an attempted unaliving and spread into the woods. The individual suffered a self-inflicted GSW and some burns. At the time of the fire, EMS arrived. The individual was alive. The EMS crew was assisted by Standish and transported to the Limington Airport, where Life Flight picked up and transported to Maine Medical Center, Portland. Fire crews remained on scene and extinguished the fire with assistance from Standish. There was also a serious crash on Cape Road, where a large tree fell across the road and landed on a vehicle in motion. The vehicle had 2 occupants. The passenger suffered serious injuries. As of today, I believe the state has cleared 4 more trees from that location. The department responded to 5 requests for mutual aid. 3 calls were to Sockopee Rescue's call area. 1 call was to Buxton, and 1 call was to Gorham. The fire chief has submitted a grant request to the Stephen and Tabitha King Foundation for $50,000 for an SCBA compressor and fill station. If awarded, this would replace the current compressor that was donated by Alfred Fire years ago. This is an item that was on the capital plan for replacement but removed by the FAC.
Thank you very much. And you want to do Parks and Rec?
If you want to.
Go right ahead.
Okay. Parks and Rec.
I was going to, but I'll give it to you.
All right. Week report 4/25 to 5/1. Current programs, before and after care program at HB Emory. Coffee social every Wednesday from 9:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. at the Old Town Hall. Indoor pickleball Tuesday and Friday nights at HB Emory from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturdays 9 a.m. to noon. T-ball and coach pitch baseball. 29 children playing between 4 teams. Track and field pre-K to 5th grade, 41 children playing. Rugby, K through high school, 10 children and growing. Pokemon Club, Monday afternoons at the Old Town Hall from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Intro to softball, which is for 3rd through 5th graders, start tonight at Blake Memorial Field. Open registration for registration online at limingtonrec.com. Summer Camp 2025 open to kindergarten through 8th grade. Registration for all 6 weeks open for Limington residents, only 3/7 to 3/17. Registration for non-residents and individual weeks open 3/17. 6 weeks of camp, $900 a resident, $950 non-resident. 6 weeks of camp with extended care is $1,100 for residents and $1,150 for non-residents. Community yard sale, Saturday, June 7th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at Blake Memorial Field. $10 for a spot to sell if you register before. $15 for the day of the event. Concession stand will be open for food and beverage purchases. Proceeds support Limington Fire and Rescue. Reserve your spot online at limingtonrec.com. Madison will be putting out information about adult softball next week. We will have an event meeting for all those interested to play in a league with Hollis and Standish. Look out on the websites and Facebook for more information. The next community meal, as mentioned earlier, this Saturday, May 3rd at 4 p.m. at the Old Town Hall. Soups, chowders, and chilies. They're still looking to have, we're still looking for more beach staff to work in the entry booth and to take care of the beach front. Job descriptions and applications are available on the website at limingtonrec.com. Madison would like to give a big thank you to Jason and Becky Webster for Webster's Service Center, Joe and Connie Brown from Pequawket Lake Farm LLC, Mike Peterson, Vertex Construction, David Salazar, Limington Fire and EMS, for sponsoring our T-ball coach pitch teams this season. And also a big thank you to Waltz & Sons Propane for sponsoring our track team. Momodeo Cleanup Day is Saturday, May 10th. Volunteers that help for 3 hours will receive a free season beach pass. As said earlier, the new generator has been installed at the Old Town Hall. Summer camp is filling up fast. Please make sure to register soon if you intend on sending your kiddo this summer.
Beautiful. Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Madison had a lot this week.
He usually has a lot. And it's great to hear so much going on in the town with everything, the Parks and Rec Department and the committee, the Old Town Hall with the community luncheons and things like that, the cards and coffee. It's just it's a lot of good stuff going on. Just a reminder that bids for cleaning the 3 locations in town are still out. They are due next Wednesday at 5 p.m., and those will be opened up and read next Thursday night. And things that we talk about continually, the trucks, we're going to be lining those trucks up, getting those out to bid. It's been a work in progress for about a year now, and I think we're ready to actually take action on that and get that going and done, and that equipment out of there.
Yes.
So I can read the announcements here at the bottom.
We'll let you read something.
Oh, thank you. Special, yeah. Select Board office hours are Thursdays, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. The on-air meeting time is Thursdays at 7. Transfer station hours are Saturday and Sunday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. and Wednesdays, noon to 4. A transfer station sticker must be attached to your vehicle windshield for the disposal of all items. Transfer station stickers are available at the town office for $20. No sticker is required to use the swap shop. The transfer station does not accept brush, yard clippings, or hazardous waste. Riverside Recycling in Portland does take hazardous waste. General assistance applications are available from the Select Board office during their normal business hours. Applications must be filled out and accompanied with supporting documentation and must be signed and returned to the GA Administrator or Town Clerk's office. Planning Board meets at the Municipal Complex the first and third Monday evenings at 7 p.m. Eco Maine. Yeah, thank you. We are still, actually, thanks. I need to actually reach out to Steve, Kelly, when we get back to our office desks, and see about the Eco Maine
Meet.
recycling, all that good stuff, and to encourage recycling here in the town of Limington. And following this meeting will be the SAD 6 presentation of the budget this year. We are glad to welcome SAD 6 here tonight to give us that information. So stay tuned as soon as we are done here and on air.
No, it's still on air.
We're going to continue on air, right?
Yeah,
Right-
yeah, we
right-
just
right
continue
straight through.
I don't think there's any opening it up to the public unless,
Well, we will open it up to the public, just
Yeah.
in case. Anybody out there, the crowd,
anybody have anything to say?
ready to say anything? No,
Chief?
he's not
No.
even looking up, so.
I just realized I did something wrong, so I'm not gonna speak.
Oh,
Oh, boy.
okay. So,
Okay.
that being said, we will entertain,
No, we open it up to.
we're gonna just leave it open. Oh, there we go. We're
Leave it
gonna turn
open
it
to-
over to SAD 6.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thanks for having us. So I'm Clay Gleason, Superintendent. It's my third year.
Thank you so much.
With me tonight is Dawn Pooler, our business
thank you.
manager. This is her second year as business manager. And you'll hear me reference tonight a couple times. This is really our second time together working through the budget process. And we learned a lot last year, and we're bringing that to the table this year to try to do better. I think we definitely reflected on last year's process, and though we were glad that we got good support in the community, there are things that we could do better. So we're here tonight to talk a little more about what we went through for a process, what we used, and looking at some of the numbers. Something that we added this year that was requested last year is just a quick kind of snapshot on some of the academic pieces that kind of went into our considerations. They're not all highlights, they're just realities. We don't have anything we're looking to run away from here. There are things that need to improve in our district, but there are also some things to celebrate. So on that, the one-page sheet that has the graphs on it, and we have extras in the back, and anyone who might watch this at home we'll leave them, and people can pick them up.
Oh, great, thank you.
So if they wanna look at them. So the first with the blue bar graph there is just a snapshot of literacy. That's our current fifth graders, and it shows where they were at when they were in the winter of 1920 when schools closed. I mean, I'm not going to continue to call it COVID. I mean, it wasn't COVID, it was the school closure that caused the problem. So you can see their proficiency was pretty high before schools closed that year, and then when they came back in the spring, it was a steady uphill battle after some of the losses. So we've had some hard years with literacy instruction trying to recover after those 13 weeks of school closure. So this particular group of kids has made steady progress by the end of each year. And I think that is sort of typical of what we see in our schools. Kids had losses. We're trying to make up for those losses with our literacy instruction. The second graph on that page that's the state test, a chart of 3rd through 10th grade. And it shows the performance of our students in math compared to the state. The black line is the state, which is above consistently the MSAD 6 line. But you can see it kind of mirrors that. You see a decline in math into middle school, and then it goes back up into high school. And that is something that we paid attention to, and 2 years ago implemented a new math program because what we were getting for feedback from middle school is that kids were coming in with different experiences, and that was adding to some of the problems. They didn't have common vocabulary, things like that. So we're in our second year. We're hoping to see improvement by having that emphasis on math with that new program. So again, our math scores aren't where we want them to be, but it's not like we're sitting back and enjoying it. We're trying to do something to fix it. The bottom graph is something I really want to highlight because last year, class of 2024 had a graduation rate, a four-year graduation rate of 87.8, which was the highest it had been in 12 years and was above the state average. So that's something to celebrate. There's a lot of reasons why we think that is, but some of them are our alternative programming, credit recovery programs that we put in place. So we have less kids dropping out, right? So we're capturing a few extra kids that help keep that rate higher than it's been in the past. So we're hoping to keep some momentum going on that. The back is all science. It shows elementary, middle school, and high school science performance on the state science test. And it's not a surprise to me, having been an elementary principal, that it's not great because we spend so much time on literacy and math during the day. Kids don't get a lot of science. They don't get enough, frankly. So when it comes time to take this test in 5th grade, they don't really have the basis to be able to do well. So we're looking at what we can do. How do we get kids more math? There's only so many hours in the day. So that's a problem we don't yet have a solution to, but we have a few ideas. Middle school is much closer to the state average, actually just slightly below. And there's a number of kids in the middle school. They tell you how many kids are on the borderline, like from one testing zone to the next. And we had a lot of kids higher than the state average that were right there on the cusp. So I think that just reflects having dedicated science teachers makes a difference. The high school, it dips back down, but our trimester schedule was not helping that. Kids weren't having the content they needed for the test when they took the test. So one of the things we did at the high school to adjust is we're now doing a semester schedule, and science classes are year long. So, we don't have the results yet to see how that might change things, but we're hoping that will have an impact on those high school science scores. So, we know our scores need work, but we're working at it. We're trying to do what we can. Couple more things just before we jump into the numbers. Something that's been on Dawn and I's mind is staffing. There were questions asked, good questions last year about enrollment and staffing. And it's a fair question. As far as enrollment, I don't have any graphs. These are just notes I'm talking from now. None of the handouts are directly related to this, but I take that back. There is one. And in the bigger packet, there is an enrollment slide. So if you wanted to look at that right behind the title page, I will reference that a little bit too. This shows our projections for next year in all the schools, all the elementary schools. And then the middle shows the projection current year and then next year for middle school and current year and next year for high school. One of the numbers of note on here is that the high school as of today is just below 1,000 kids, 995. Still a big school, but anybody who's grown up in this community knows that school has been as high as 1,500 kids. So at this point in time, the high school has dipped down in enrollment. So it begs the question, how does the staffing compare, right? So that's something we took a deep dive into. I'll say a little more about that. Middle school is pretty consistent. In the middle school, I think shows what our average class sizes are projected to be for the next 8 years. We don't have any of these 270, 280 student classes really coming along. They're in the 240s and 230s when you look at all the first graders across the district, all the second graders. And then back to that top graph, you can see all the classrooms, the number of teachers, the school averages and the district averages. 16.7 is the average student-teacher ratio in our elementary schools. It doesn't fall out evenly, and that's one of the challenges of having kids in 5 buildings. You can't use the staff as efficiently as you might if you had a larger population center. Like Buxton's able to kind of have less ebbs and flows because of that larger school. But one thing I want to point out is these ratios are after we've cut 6 positions. The budget we're going to present tonight, we reduced 6 teaching positions through attrition, a retirement, a resignation. We evaluated before we hired anybody this year, do we really need this? What will be the impact on kids? And we found 6 positions that we felt like we could still offer everything we'd offered and not negatively impact kids. So that's one of the steps we took this year, and that's the approach that Dawn and I are going to try to continue to take each year, is responsibly reduce our staffing, not do it in a disruptive, sudden way. Some districts are forced into, cutting 20 positions in a year. People are losing their jobs when that happens, and we're going to try to avoid that. We're going to try to continue to pare it down as we see opportunities and help level out the reoccurring costs in the budget to bring that. It will probably never bring it down, but it will offset the increases, right? So we can keep those increases to a minimum, and we'll talk more about that too. So overall, our enrollment in the last 10 years, big picture, it's gone down about 350 students. But our staffing hasn't necessarily matched that, and that's why we're really taking a good look, and we are reducing staff this year. We have about 290 teachers, and we have about 700 employees overall. So that's a little, preparation for the budget conversation. The other thing I want to talk about is we heard through budget advisory and through public input and people emailing us that they're concerned about increasing a budget when we have already raised funds, like in capital reserve accounts or fund balances. And that's something we listen to, and we're trying to look at how to responsibly use those sources of revenue that have already been raised instead of taxing people more, right? So one example is in our Article 9, which is all about facilities. Any unexpended money it goes into a capital reserve account that can be used for facilities-related issues. The board has to approve expenditures once that budget year has expired, but it was growing. It was like $2.7 million, right, for things we just couldn't get done in a given year. Well, we had a number of safety improvements, alarm panels that needed to be upgraded, intercom systems that often didn't work, and especially in the older schools like HB Emory. HB Emory has the entry door at the school is starting to just fail, and it's aging, needs to be replaced. So we put all those together, went to the board approved an expenditure out of that capital reserve account of almost $700,000 to take care of those and not raise more taxes to do it. So we're putting money into the facilities using that money that's already been raised. The other thing that we'll talk a little more about is our fund balance. There's a lot of folks that feel like, you have $10 million in the fund balance, why are you asking us for more? And I get it, I hear it. It's just a delicate balance, and I'm sure you deal with this too, that you don't want to have too much, but you also don't want to be caught short in your fund balance. And we're trying to find that balance because we're coming down off from a time when there was an irregularity with revenues, specifically around COVID funds and reimbursements and the timing of them. And it really kind of created a situation where we thought we were going to spend more than we did, and then we didn't, and the fund balance grew. So it's at a point now where we are, the budget the board approved is $4 million out of our $10 million capital reserve to pay down the taxes. So we're not raising more money, we're using money we already raised to not raise the taxes more. We've had some people say to us, you might be using too much. We're sensitive to that, but we think we have a plan. We think that we can get by this year and then next year reevaluate and start to wean ourselves off of that fund balance, because this will be the second year we've had to use a pretty significant amount. But one of the things you're going to hear as a theme when Dawn comes up and talks is that we have just been hammered by health insurance costs. Last year it was 12%, a 12% increase. We had budgeted for 6%. We had to take from the fund balance, so we didn't increase the budget even more. This year it was 12.7. We budgeted 12. We learned our lesson, we thought. 12.7. In our 80% of our budget is people. Those benefits, 12% amounts to almost $1 million each year. So we've had $2 million added onto the budget just from health insurance costs in the last 2 years. And that's not going to go down, right? Hopefully it doesn't keep going up like this, but it's not going to go down. So that's been a frustration, but something we're trying to mitigate. And the question might come up, and I'll just save the trouble if anyone's going to ask it. Do we ever shop out our health insurance? And the answer is, it doesn't happen very often, but we're definitely going to look into it, because I don't know what other options there might be, if they'll be better. It is complex because we have bargaining units, and they have to have a say in that at the table. But it doesn't mean we can't look at that option. So it's definitely something we're looking at after 2 years in a row of just really being hit hard. And then at the end, we'll kind of close with a list of things that we didn't ask for money for, we didn't put in the budget, but we think are needed. So at this time, I'll have Dawn come up, and what she's going to do is go through each article really quickly, this slide for each one, talk about what's in that article and what's driven the costs or other factors in that, and then we'll also talk about adult ed and school nutrition. And those are all the areas that have to be voted on at the budget meeting, so, thanks.
Good evening. On page 3 of our packet that I gave to you, you'll see a budget history. This is just our overall budgets for the past 10 years. You can see the increases there, what our totals were. And then on page 4, we have the same information for our food service budgets and our adult ed budgets. Page 5 of the packet is a summary of the FY26 proposed budget. It shows our general fund budget by article. You can see there's a 3.93% increase. The adult ed budget is a 0.67% decrease, and nutrition services is an 11.23% increase. And that equates overall to a 4.17% increase. Page 6 shows the proposed budget for FY26 along with our estimated revenues, and which leads to the town assessments. You can see that although it's a 4.17% overall increase to the budgets, the assessment to the town is a 3.77%. That's an average number. The graph on the sheet on the bottom shows the assessment to each town. And I want to make it clear that we don't determine this. This is determined by the state. We get those numbers from the ED 279, where they take the valuation for 3 years and come up with the average, and they tell us what we have to charge our towns. Get in a little bit of the detail here on page 7. Article 1 is for regular instruction, and that is our regular pre-K through grade 12 programming, our alternative ed programs, English language learners, and our gifted and talented programs. You can see we have an increase there of 0.67%. And the drivers that make up that are the salaries and benefits for an increase of $384,000. The contracted average salary increase for the people that are paid in Article 1 is a 4.3% increase. As Clay mentioned, we cut 6 instructional positions just through attrition and non-renewals and people that resigned. And our health insurance increase was a really big hit, 12.7%. In the non-labor side of it, we decreased $213,000. We cut our contingency account. We were carrying $300,000 in there for several years. We cut it down to $150,000. And we have our one-to-one technology devices for the kids. The lease for those devices is in there, but our technology department had to buy some equipment that isn't considered one-to-one for the instructional side, so we had to move $65,000 from Article 1 to Article 5. Article 2 is our special ed programs, and this includes the special ed administration, our resource rooms, our self-contained rooms, our homebound and hospital tutoring, and our special education services for social work, health, psych, speech and audiology, occupational therapy, and physical therapy. This was an overall increase of 7.55%. The salaries and benefits increased $765,000. The average salary increase for people paid in Article 2 is 6.56%, and that large health insurance of 12.7%. The non-labor increased $142,000. We added some money for outside tuition expenses. We have a lot of staff in our special ed services that have to go from building to building, and we have to pay mileage for that. So we put $20,000 in there for that. And then we added a contingency. We hadn't had a special ed contingency in Article 2. And if we have any sort of placement outside of our district, that can cost a lot of money. So we have 100,000 in there. It can easily exceed that, but we try, our special ed director is really good at trying to keep the kids in the district if at all possible. On to page 8. Article 3 is career and technical education, and the funding for this flows directly to those schools. So we have $10,000 in our budget, and it's purely there in case we get a bill from one of these career and tech ed centers we have to pay. So that's just like an emergency money. Article 4 is other instruction, and this includes the co-curricular activities like student government, band, choir, clubs, honor societies, and our extracurricular activities, which is our athletics, and the non-special education summer school. This article was a decrease of 3.98%. The salaries and benefits were minus $105,000, and the contracted average salary increase for the people that work in this article was 3.21%. But the reduction came from the positions for the actual expenses. We're aligning them with what the expenses actually were. So in prior years, we may have just increased it at a certain percent. This year, we actually looked at what those positions were, who were in them, how much they were making, and aligned it with our actual expenses. So we were able to cut $110,000 there. The non-labor increased $57,000. We had to increase our purchase services, $18,000. That's for our game officials. We had to increase supplies for $25,000 and transportation to get the kids to and from those athletic events for $20,000. Article 5 is student and staff support, and that's for regular ed social work, guidance, health, library, curriculum, and instructional technology. Here we have an increase of 10.15%. The drivers were salaries and benefits of $288,000, and the contracted average salary increase for those paid from that article was 6.89%, and the health insurance of 12.7%. The non-labor, we had a large increase there, $261,834, and a lot of these items that we found in here were, they had been unfunded in the past. Our technology director was trying to find the money elsewhere to pay for things. But I think a big part of our attempt this year was to realistically put in the budget what we needed. So the items there were cyber insurance, which we hadn't had a policy for. Our firewall hardware had to be replaced, and endpoint protection. Increased software repair and maintenance for $95,000. That tech lease that I talked about from Article 1 that was moved here. We have a software renewal that we were paying out of Article 11 that belonged here, so we moved it here, and supplies that were moved from Article 7 to here for $20,000. Article 6 is system administration, and that's our superintendent, our school board, and the business office. We have an increase there of 4.75%. The overall salaries and benefits increased $78,000. The average salary increase was 5.78%, and again, the large health insurance increase. And on the non-labor side, we just moved expenses around within Article 6. There was an increase of $253. Article 7 is school administration, and that includes the principals and their school offices. We have an increase of 4.23% there. The salaries and benefits were increased $134,000, and the average salary increase for people that are paid in Article 7 is 6.14%, and the health insurance of 12.7%. I keep harping on that number, but that's a really big number for us. The non-labor, we decreased here $19,683. And that was what we found when we were doing a deep dive into their expenses, where they had a lot of expenses in there that should have been to the guidance office, the library, the social work. So we moved those expenses to where they should have been. That's where that $20,000 went. Article 8 is transportation, and that's our buses, our drivers, our monitors, bus monitors, and our mechanics. We have a 1.01% increase there. The salaries and benefits overall were a decrease of $31,577. The average salary increase for people that paid out of Article 8 was 2.18%. And that seems lower than a lot of the other average salary increases, but 2 years ago, they received a hefty increase. So this is just kind of evening out the playing field. The health insurance increase was 12.7%. And we found, we've been carrying an unfilled mechanic position in our budget for several years. And due to industry standards and what the mechanics are able to do, we just cut that position out of the budget, and they should be fine. They should be able to handle the maintenance of the buses with those three. Non-labor, we increased $80,800, and that was due to purchase professional services of $15,000. And then the transportation software, we used to get it free from the state. Well, the state's not paying for it anymore. So we did our shopping, and we're gonna institute a new program. We're gonna have a presentation on it at one of our school board meetings, but it has a parent app. The parents will be able to track where their kids are, when they got on the bus, where the bus is. So we're really excited about that. But that's $65,000 that we now have to pay for. Article 9 is facilities and maintenance, and that's all our buildings, our grounds, equipment, security, and safety. Here we have a 10.93% increase. Salaries and benefits increased at $173,000. The average salary increase was 4.22% in this article, and the health insurance 12.7%. The non-labor increased $721,750. Again, there were a lot of things in here that when we hired a new facilities director and he was looking through his budget, there are just some things that weren't in here, and we needed to put them in there. So these items were purchase professional services of $90,000, and this is just routine inspections, testing, our main security service for our monitoring. Purchase property services, so repairs for buildings, grounds, and vehicles that we can't do ourselves, of $155,000. We have an EEI project for $210,000, and that's for lighting for definitely for the existing buildings that we know we're gonna be keeping for the long run, like Buxton Center Elementary School, the middle school, high school, and the Jack Memorial Building. And the Jack Memorial Building is the hub of our technology for the district, and we're gonna be doing some major things there. The boiler is like 40 years old, and the HVAC system isn't working anymore, so there's gonna be a major overhaul for that. And that $210,000 is actually for a $2.8 million lease to do all that work, and this is the annual payment for 20 years. Then we have to increase our supplies for grounds, custodial, and maintenance, and the amounts are listed there. Energy as well. And then we need some equipment for the custodial and grounds totaling $30,000, and a lease for some existing equipment for $21,000, and we're cutting our contingency amount $75,000. We had $375,000 in there. We're reducing it by 75, and knowing we have the capital reserve funds, we're comfortable with making that reduction. Article 10 is debt service, and that's for our Buxton Center Elementary School. It is a decrease of 12.92%, or $213,000, and that reduction is purely due to a bond refinance that the Maine Municipal Bond Bank did, and our principal payment that we made, so our payment is lower.
How much is left on that, do we think?
I believe it's 10 more years. Article 11 is all other expenses, and that's non-instructional services and community service operations. And we had $18,000 in there. We're proposing zero for next year. We were paying for our software out of that, and we moved it to Article 5 where it belongs. So that's it for the general fund budget. Our adult ed is the program, is our adult transitions literacy, workforce training, high school completion, or GED, and our enrichment programs. There's a decrease of 0.67%. The salaries and benefits were a decrease of $12,000. The average salary increase for people paid out of this fund is 6.97%. That health insurance increase applies here as well. We had 2 positions in her budget that had been carried for several years that she feels she can live without, no longer needs. That's a workforce coordinator and a part-time evening clerical position, so we cut those out. And we had to increase our salaries for the enrichment side, again, based on actual what we were spending in prior years and, to make it more realistic with what our actual expenses were. The non-labor increased $9,651, and that was for iPads and supplies, $6,300, and some textbooks for the CNA class and the English language learners, $3,400. Our nutrition services, we serve breakfast and lunch to all the students. There's an increase there of 11.23%. The salaries and benefits increased $39,000. The average salary increase for the folks that work in, that are paid through this fund, 3.46%. That health insurance of 12.7%. And here we had to increase our non-labor $232,000. And that was due to food, mostly food supplies, but food and non-food supplies, $226,000. And we need a grab-and-go cooler piece of equipment for $10,000. As you know, food costs are astronomical, and again, we're trying to budget more to what her true expenses are. And then on the last page, you can see all of our unfunded needs. The list is, they would, if we had the money, this is where we would want to spend it, but we're trying to be fiscally responsible, and, we don't want to overburden the taxpayers.
Questions?
Too bad, they're overburdened.
Yeah. More, further.
Right.
I just want to say sorry that, people don't show up for this. To be honest, you hear a lot of people talk about it, but this is when they should be here.
To ask you questions.
Yeah, I
Right.
mean, it bugs me, because I'm always preaching, get out there, if you got a voice, if you got questions, and
Well, and that's one of the things I said, was it last night, 2 nights ago? We were in Buxton, right, Buxton, been a long week. And one of the things I said is, like, we're here, like, come talk to us. I've left a bunch of my business cards there, you can put them out at the desk there. My email, my phone number, Dawn, we'll sit down with anybody and go over any of this in detail, because what I find frustrating is similarly, like, people post things on Facebook, they may or may not be true, and sometimes people don't really want to know the truth. There's a lot of, this isn't transparent, you're not telling people everything. I got nothing to hide here, So that's the thing we want to convey. Like, you may not like it may be a lot, it may be more than people want to pay, but it isn't, because we're not trying, and we are trying to bring it down. One of the things I think you'll take note of is Article 1 is like about a third of our budget. And we brought that in almost flat, and that's probably the one we have the most control over, with manipulating like how many people we have and what we pay them and all of that. So that was a lot of work that we did to try to bring that big article in, at a 0.67 increase. Special ed is another big increase, and it's hard because one of the things we do in this district is we have basically our own in-house day treatment program. So we don't have to spend $120,000 per kid to send them out somewhere else, perhaps out of state. But it's expensive to run it in district, but it's going to be more expensive if we didn't have it. And we have a really high special ed population in this community. It's like 30%, and the state average is more like 15. So we have almost double the population, which means our costs are going to be higher in special ed than other places. And then the facility stuff last year, one of the things that a lot of, some people said to us, I don't know if it's a lot, but they didn't feel like we were spending enough on facilities. And we could go even further, but we're trying to just stick to what we think we absolutely need to do. especially until we find out about the school construction applications we put in, which we won't know until June or July, what will happen there, and then we're really going to have to kind of look at what the plan is. Either there is some opportunity to have state funding for a new construction, or there isn't, and if there isn't, what are we going to do? Like, how do we approach that? Because that's going to have a cost associated with it too. So,
Most of the district has a lot of old schools.
yeah.
that
One of the,
need-
as we went through the tours with the committee, we spent 3 days with this committee because we had 7 of the 100 applications that were submitted. And so 3 days with this team, and I learned a lot. And one of the things they didn't say anything directly, but I could feel that as hard as our high school and middle school, even though there are problems with them, it's not nearly as serious as some of the other places in the state. But some of our elementary schools, if they're unsprinklered and wooden, they were very concerned about that. So, you know, I'm not saying it's a great chance, but there is a chance that got enough attention at our elementary schools to maybe do something. But, you know, I don't know. But either way, we know next year we're going to have to go to work with sort of
One
a
way or
long-range
another.
plan of how do we start improving these things a little at a time. So in the meantime, trying to continue to pare staffing down as our enrollment drops till we get to a place that we think we can sort of, you know, kind of exist. And that fund balance question, again, like trying to keep that, keep our reliance on that to a minimum. Have it be more of a bonus where we can add a little to pay it down and not be relying on it every year, so. So, anybody, we have one in Standish, next week Hollis, virtual with Fry Island, and then we're in Standish the week after, and then the 15th is the budget meeting. And we look forward to people coming and saying what they have to say there. But,
Yeah. Hopefully they can get out and speak.
Yeah.
You know, because most of the time, I think this is our budget, I know, stems off of this budget this year.
Yeah.
You know, we cut physically as much as we could out of our town budget. So I don't know what we had projected. What was our estimate?
I think we did 4%.
Yeah.
And when folks had asked us, we were saying maybe 5, but we were trying to get it under 5. And I want to say the school board was very clear that 5 would have been too high. We had a budget advisory committee, and the problem is it meets the same night your meetings are. So I know it's hard for anyone from here to attend, but you know, the folks on that committee were very supportive, and they were willing to support a higher percentage. And I felt bad. I actually felt bad because they invested their time advising us, and I couldn't take their recommendation because it was too much. And I know they didn't feel great about that, but I couldn't feel great about bringing a 6% increase out to the community. So we went back to work and cut it even more, and the school board wanted to see it under 4. And our general budget, we got under 4. You know, and then those food costs are really what
Yeah.
put the whole thing
That's
above
crazy.
4.
It's,
And
eggs
then-
are, what, quadrupled? It's just, and
Yeah.
it's
And when you
insane.
feed as many kids as we do, you know, it's going to
Yeah.
affect you more. And then just that piece that Dawn said about we get told by the state what we charge each town, and it's very unfortunate. Limington, the valuations and the timing and the averages are just hurting you guys more than
Right.
other.
Hopefully next year we'll be.
Yeah.
Right, it'll be someone else's turn to
Hammered.
be
Yes,
on the
yes.
high.
The reevaluation,
And we will
I think,
always vote no. And we
yeah,
still
We've
yeah.
always been historically, you know, the lowest, but.
Yeah.
yeah,
That
changed-
reevaluation that they
Yeah,
did
that
previous.
changed last year.
And then we have one starting
Because
July.
now they look at us like we're really high in value.
Right, rich,
Kinda.
rich out here,
We
right? Oh my
are.
gosh,
We
The
are
right.
not
way it
rich
is,
out
it looks
here.
like we're Falmouth.
I know.
It's like, no, we're not.
It is a problem, and you know, and it's a problem other communities deal with too. Like some of the coastal areas that aren't wealthy necessarily, they're families that owned a little fishing shack for years, and now it's $1 million waterfront property, and they
They
can't,
can't even
afford
afford
the taxes. So
It's sad.
it is a problem, and
Yep.
and I looked at this, and I was pleased that we got it under 4 on average, but then looking and seeing Limington at 4.35 didn't feel great because that seems pretty, you know, different, like very off, right? Between
is.
the communities, and that
It is.
I don't see that as being fair either. But like again, we don't.
Well, it's not you,
decide,
yeah.
right.
mean,
I think the community with the highest percentage have the majority vote on your
Hey,
budget.
You know? Sounds good. I mean, you know,
There you go, yeah. Yeah, we should have a higher percentage of vote.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
weighted. Maybe it should be weighted.
I'm new to the area, so I always thought it was odd that we can vote no in Limington, but the other town, a town, will vote yes, and the budget still passes.
Yeah, because it's the accumulation.
whole-
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
last year Limington did pass it.
Normally, yeah,
Yeah, Standish did, Hollis did, Buxton didn't, but
yeah.
the overall
The
total is what
overall
we go
was a
by, yeah.
pass.
Should be a
Yeah.
majority.
Yeah.
You gotta convince us all.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Noted.
There's a lot to
Right.
convince
It's
you.
our
No, I
money.
mean, people noticed, well, I think what they noticed most of all, and they came in and told us, was that the municipal budget was a higher percentage than the school board, which was the first time they'd ever seen it.
Yeah.
Right, so, and I know they'll be looking again this year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
They were wondering why we were paying more to the school and not our own town.
yeah,
And then
yeah.
this year, it was,
Flopped.
yeah,
Yeah.
they paid more the town than they did the school.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
You
And they
guys
like
got
to
a
see-
year
They
off.
like to see, they like to see the
Especially
municipal
when we only
less
have
than the school
one
Yeah.
school.
percentage in their tax bill.
So,
I know.
Because then it gives them, they can blame you, Clay.
Right. I know, and I don't know what the answer is. I can just say that, again, this is our second year working together to do this. We learned a lot last year, and we're committed to trying to continue to control the costs. Again, I can't say we're gonna come in with a negative increase, but we need to stop the bleeding, because I agree. People said it's too much. We can't keep going up, and I agree. And we have less kids, we should have less people. So we're gonna continue to look at that every time we hire somebody. Do we absolutely need them? And it will be representative. It isn't gonna just be teachers, right? Every part of our organization. Some natural places we've gone down with less kids is we have less food service workers, we have less bus drivers, because we have some less kids to transport and feed. But like custodians, we don't have less custodians because we still have the same number of buildings and the same number of, spaces that need to be cleaned. So, we're trying to navigate all that and do what we can to
Yeah.
keep a lid
Yeah,
on it.
yeah, I mean, you need the services, right?
Yeah.
Just like a municipality.
Yeah.
People want the services.
yeah, you got your
You know,
core,
then you have to
your core
pay for
amount
those
you need.
services,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
And
and I know
and your
people-
services must have, you see probably a little bit of shift in what those services needs have been in the past 5 years, maybe?
Yeah, for you're talking about like the students and.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
student needs,
Yeah.
I guess
Yeah, and-
specifically.
well, one of the things, I guess, since you brought it up is, some folks, kind of come at us about, your scores are low. Well, it isn't because we don't have teachers working hard trying, right? What we're seeing is kids are coming in with behaviors that you just didn't see 10 years ago.
Correct.
Wrecking classrooms, dysregulated, and teachers are spending like an inordinate amount of time just trying to settle them so they can be in the room to learn. And that affects the kids who are ready to learn, and that has been a problem. And then at the high school, we have like kids coming in addicted to nicotine, vaping, and they're running, the administrators are trying to catch kids vaping in the bathroom, and kids up with their phones. And I mean, we have rules about phones at the high school, but the teachers are having to fight with kids because they're addicted to their screens. I know that at the legislature, there's a lot of like proposals around bills banning phones, and some people don't like it because they don't think it should be, they think it should be local control, that schools should decide, but it's something that we might need to talk about, but we would need parents to buy in, because I am predicting it's going to be some parents who are going to say, no, you can't take my kid's phone away, and I don't look forward to having that kind of a fight. But those are all things that factor into that piece about needs. It just makes it harder to educate kids when they just don't really want to take the education. So,
They don't know how important it is
yeah.
right now at this age.
It's funny because I've been around for a long time now, 23 years, and I saw a kid. I went to the adult ed graduation, and I think that we have 40 students in the adult ed high school equivalency program this year. And last year, one of the graduates came up to see me after, and he remembered me from me being his principal in elementary school. And he was a kid that had troubles, but he left school because he didn't appreciate it, and he said, I appreciate it more now, and he came back to get his equivalency. But I wish he could have seen it when he was in 5th grade or 4th
Right.
grade, right? Instead of waiting until he was, 19 years old. So it's too bad. Well, thank you for having us. Did you have any other questions, or if?
No,
I don't,
I don't.
no, and not unless we get into the weeds of,
Yeah, yeah.
more granular questions, but,
And we tried to be more specific. Last year, we were very brief, and the feedback we got is people wanted more. So this is the same presentation
Yeah.
we're going to do at the budget meeting. We'll put these up on the screen so people can see what's in an article they're voting on.
and
those
can you
cost
give us
drivers.
that date one more time?
Yeah, it's May 15th at 6 p.m. at the high school.
At the high school?
Yep, and we have tried to not schedule any events. Other years, we just have a concert or something going on, and we tried to tell all the buildings, don't put anything on that night. There still probably will be something, but hopefully it'll be minimal, so if people want to go, they can, and they don't have to choose.
Okay.
Hopefully it'll rain too, that might get more people. When it's a beautiful evening, it's a lot harder to get people, so.
Mm-hmm, right.
You should probably do this during the
May
winter.
15th.
Yeah, maybe,
It's a
right?
Thursday.
It's a Thursday night?
It's a Thursday night.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Well, nobody will be here, so.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right, they'll all be
There won't
at your,
competition, unfortunately, you guys. Yeah.
We'll just leave a big sign on the door saying, go to the high school.
that's
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So.
Well, thank you.
Maybe
very
we
much.
should move our town meeting to the high school that day.
Thank you
Yes.
very much for your
Thank you,
time, Don
guys.
and Clay.
Exactly. And I make a motion to adjourn.
I will second it.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor? We will adjourn at 8:09. Thank you all, and thank you, Ben.
Thanks, Ben.